Good morning, everyone. My name is Don Connolly. I'm the Public Information Officer for the United States Attorney's Office. We appreciate you coming here today. I'm going to introduce the people that are up here with me. Jason Ziegler is the acting resident agent in charge of the ATF office in Fayetteville. Next to him is Caroline Webb, an assistant U.S. attorney who helped prosecute this case. Benny Mims is next to her. He's the special agent in charge of ATF out of Charlotte, but he has North and South Carolina responsibilities. Scott Lemon is next to him. He's the chief of our OSDEF section, and he also prosecuted this case. To the far right is Chief Gina Hawkins, the Fayetteville Police Chief, and next to her is my boss, the United States Attorney Michael Easley. He was sworn in this position on November 26, 2021. Prior to his appointment, he was a partner with the McGuire Woods law firm. He was born in Southport. He attended the University of North Carolina, where he graduated with honors and distinction. And he later received his law degree with honors from the University of North Carolina School of Law. He brought a lot of experience to our office, and he has a lot of energy, and I think you'll see that in this press conference. Thank you very much. Michael.
Thank you, Don. Good morning. I'm United States Attorney Michael Easley for the Eastern District of North Carolina, here today with Chief Gina Hawkins of the Fayetteville Police Department and Special Agent in charge of the ATF, Benny Mims, two law enforcement leaders with national reputations for integrity and deep commitment to community engagement and support. This investigation that we're here to talk about today culminated yesterday with a 40-year sentence to federal prison for Fayetteville drug trafficker Reshod Everett, who was also ordered to pay $4 million of the ill-gotten proceeds of his drug trafficking organization. Mr. Everett was an armed drug trafficker who for years used his home on Ronald Reagan Drive in Fayetteville for two very different businesses. First, an in-home daycare called Torrey's Playhouse. And second, a heavily armed drug trafficking organization that supplied illegal narcotics and retained cash in the same building where children were entrusted by parents for care and safety. A deadly and potentially dangerous mix of guns, drugs, and cash in the same house where children were cared for. This drug trafficker put countless lives at risk with his operation. In May, a jury found Everett guilty of 6 different drug trafficking and firearm offenses. The Reshod Everett prosecution is just one example of the investigations that our Organized Crime and Drug Investigation Task Force handles with Fayetteville Police Department and the ATF. This investigation began in 2018 when Fayetteville Police Department's gang unit uncovered a criminal network trafficking hundreds of pounds of high-grade marijuana. But as the investigation would reveal, this case went far beyond marijuana. After seizing guns, drugs, and cash, the investigation revealed that Everett was a serious supplier of drugs in the Fayetteville area. Police learned that Everett used an apartment along with his co-defendant, Alvin Davis, as a trap house to store cocaine, marijuana, and a loaded gun. In July of 2018, Davis was stopped as he left the Addison Ridge apartment in a black Cadillac. Davis was pulled over, and in the car, law enforcement found cocaine, marijuana, and a loaded handgun with an extended magazine. For his part, Davis was convicted and sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. After stopping Davis, law enforcement got warrants to search the apartment, as well as Everett's daycare and home, and a storage unit that Everett used to store drugs. In total, these searches led to the seizure of over 100 pounds of marijuana, 346 grams of cocaine, 9 guns, drug packaging items, and over $70,000 in cash. The guns seized at the at-home daycare included handguns, like a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard handgun, a Ruger P94 handgun in a duffel bag with cash, but they also included loaded, high-powered rifles, including many that are on display here today. A PS-90 rifle with ammunition, MGG-4 223 caliber rifle, Tapco SKS 7.62 caliber rifle, and a loaded DMPS AR-15 rifle with a bipod and scope and the safety set to the fire position. Just a small amount of pressure on that trigger would have caused the gun to fire in the same house that parents trusted as a daycare to look after their children. But the investigation didn't stop there. The United States Attorney's Office, in partnership with the Fayetteville Police, the ATF, and the IRS, relentlessly gathered evidence to make the case even stronger. They built cases against other defendants that Reshod Everett supplied with drugs to elicit cooperation. They interviewed witnesses who collectively confirmed that Everett was responsible for trafficking over 56 kilos of cocaine, over 1,700 kilos of marijuana, all dating back to at least 2016. They analyzed Everett's cell phone records to confirm his link to the locations that they searched and his drug trafficking activities. They also did a financial investigation, pulling tax and financial records to show that Everett also lied under oath about his income. To be sure, Everett lived a lavish lifestyle. He had a 3,000 square foot apartment, he had a 3,000 square foot house, 3 late model vehicles. He took his family on vacations to California and the Caribbean. But his reported income for 2017 was negative $29,544. $29,544. He did not file any tax return in 2018. Everett's lavish lifestyle was not earned. It was bought and paid for by the young men he roped into his drug trafficking conspiracy and by the ills that he foisted upon the Fayetteville community. At trial, witnesses testified under oath that Everett sold kilogram quantities of cocaine in Fayetteville and would also travel to California and Colorado to have mules bring high-grade marijuana back to the Fayetteville area where he would sell it for profit. At every turn of this investigation, Reshod Everett used lies, deceit, and intimidation to try to avoid accountability for his wrongdoing. While state charges were pending, Everett launched a campaign of deception in the news media and on social media to unfairly attack the Fayetteville Police Department and the Cumberland County District Attorney's Office. He claimed that he was framed by police, that they had planted evidence, including over 100 pounds of drugs that were found at locations that were attached to Everett. But the Fayetteville Police Department, under the leadership of Chief Gina Hawkins, took the high road. They sat down with Everett, listened to his claims, conducted a thorough internal investigation. They did interviews, reviewed reports, even body cam footage. Everett's claims of planted evidence were false, and a jury rejected those claims, finding Everett guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Everett also tried to intimidate witnesses. He used social media to identify potential witnesses, tried to bribe cooperating defendants, recruited a violent gang member to threaten cooperating defendants, offered to pay inmates to give false information about witnesses who testified against Everett. And in handing down the 40-year sentence, the court noted Everett's intimidation and campaign of deceit. In conclusion, I want to commend the Fayetteville Police Department and Chief Gina Hawkins and her leadership in their work to disrupt and dismantle high-level drug traffickers in Cumberland County, those who bring poison and violence to our communities. Even in the face of false accusations and character attacks, your officers remained committed. They showed the utmost integrity. They allowed the jury to find the truth. I also want to thank the ATF and the IRS for supporting our Organized Crime and Drug Enforcement Task Force, for partnering with local law enforcement in the work we've done here to dismantle Reshod Everett's drug trafficking organization, and many more cases which are in the works. Armed drug traffickers in eastern North Carolina are on notice. Let this 40-year sentence be a warning. No amount of character attacks or witness intimidation or attempts to obstruct justice will stop us from prosecuting you to the fullest extent of the law. I want to commend the leadership of our office as well. Scott Lemon of our Organized Crime and Gang section is here, along with Caroline Webb, a career public servant who has devoted her life's work to making eastern North Carolina safer. I'm incredibly proud of the work you two did in prosecuting this case and in seeing justice done for the people of Fayetteville and securing vindication for the Fayetteville Police Department in the incredible work they did to see justice through. Thank you so much. Chief, would you like to make some remarks?
Please. So, thank you very much, U.S. Attorney. I cannot say enough, first of all, for the partnership that we have here in the federal agencies in the prosecution. It's been a long time, how many years, we've had to stay quiet and wait for justice and wait for the jury to decide conviction and sentencing. It's been a long time for our officers, our agencies, our community to find out the truth. And I cannot express how important it is for the community to understand we signed up for service. We signed up to service and stand in the gap for them. There is no way you can understand how ecstatic we are to get these guns off the street, those drugs out of our community, and as well as to show you we're in it for the long game. We're in it to uphold, to protect the community. We understand that we're going to get attacked. We understand we're going to have to justify everything we do when we operate in the Constitution, but we are here and not going anywhere. We also understand the next person besides Reshod Everett is attempting to come in our community. This should show you an example. We are not going away. We are staying vigilant, and we're in it for the long game. Perseverance is the word for today. We will persevere in making sure we eradicate these drugs, and we also want to make sure everyone understands you will be investigated according to the Constitution. But also, trying to deflect from your criminal activity will not win. You will not win in the end with justice. A 40-year sentence should show you an example of that. But I cannot say how proud I am of the officers of the Fayetteville Police Department. They've had to endure attacks. They've also had to stand and keep on working, and that's what they did. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it off to anyone else.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Special Agent in charge of the ATF, Benny Mims, forward to talk about the work that ATF is doing in this space and the commitment they have to help make Fayetteville safer.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple of statements from me. I won't take too long, and we'll open up for questions. But ATF has worked closely with the United States Attorney and the Fayetteville Police Department to bring this case to a conclusion and to put a stop to this subject and to this threat. The threat that this subject poses to this community cannot be overstated. Large quantities of drugs, as you can see, multiple firearms, as you can see, which were loaded and ready to be fired. That's meaningful because many were covered inside of a business that served parents and children. As we said, it was a daycare. This was a tragedy waiting to happen, and some type of accident waiting to happen. Because of the work of the Fayetteville Police Department, ATF, and the United States Attorney, we've all prevented a tragedy and ended a subject's career criminal. This case is yet another example of a successful partnership between law enforcement agencies working together to make our community safer. So just wanted to say thank you to the case agents, ATF and Fayetteville Police Department and the United States Attorneys that actually put out in all the work. So I'll turn it back over to the United States Attorney.
Thank you. We can try to answer some questions. You can see we have exhibits here which demonstrate the seizures in this case from both the apartment and the in-home daycare. along with many of the firearms that were seized. These are not all the firearms that were seized, but indicative of the incredible risk that was posed in this daycare that was really used as a cover for a very dangerous drug trafficking operation.
You were thorough.
Yeah, that's right. I have a question regarding like his wife and the coworkers that were inside the daycare. Because my understanding, one of the coworkers actually had a storage facility in her name that had drugs and stuff in it. Where are we at with those individuals?
I can speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, first I'll say our investigations never stop, and we always follow the law and the facts where they lead. But I will invite up Scott Lemon to share a little bit on some of these ancillary but related players.
As to those particular individuals, Victoria Everett was not charged in our indictment, and Latasha Sinkler, I believe, was the person who was living in the home that you mentioned. She was charged with state charges. I think those were dismissed, and she was not charged in the federal case.
All right, thank you.
One other question.
Yes, sir.
So when you look at Everett's organization that he had going on, are there any other defendants that are still looking at being prosecuted, or was he kind of like, are you going above him where he was getting his product from, that kind of thing?
Yeah, all I can say right now is that our investigations in the federal system do not stop, and we will continue to follow the law and the facts wherever they lead. In all of these cases, we will elicit cooperation, and defendants and drug traffickers ought to know that your only path is to cooperate with law enforcement and give up a life of crime. And we want to do all we can to do as we did here and build little cases bigger and bigger and bigger, to cut off the sources of supply for these dangerous drugs, but also to raise awareness and send a message to those who would try to engage in illicit behavior and take shortcuts. That is not a path forward, and you will face accountability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.